All right, so boom, welcome back to another episode of the Black Caliber Podcast. Today, I'm here with Mr. Gary Brooks. He is a successful career in sports franchise ownership, coaching, and athlete development. As the owner of an I-9 sports franchise in the Delaware and the director of Philly Pride 302 AAU program, he has played a key role in shaping young athletes' futures with extensive experience in AAU recruitment, player development, and coaching at the high school and college levels. He's dedicated to training elite college-bound athletes, and his journey in sports and business and athlete mentorship has given valuable insights into ownership and franchise management. So he's just excited to be here, and we're excited to have him. So how you feel today?
I'm good. What's going on?
I'm good.
I'm lying. All right. Yeah, man. I'm just, like I said, I'm on Lincoln U campus, building with the young fellas and the young ladies, and excited to be able to, share some of my information and my experience with this crowd, and hope it sticks to a few people.
Okay. So let's just even start. So how did you get started? Because I know you initially were in the music industry. Then you took a pivot into.
Yeah, when I was an athlete as a kid. So the music industry kind of fell in my lap when I came home from school. I had cousins and people who were, in Philadelphia who were doing the music thing, and I kind of got roped in, and then I took a leadership role in that. I started a label there, and when I was a young guy, I had some artists, and we did some things. I did some traveling, and but the ultimately the music business wasn't where I would make my bones. So great experiences, great connections, great. I love music. I love everything about it. But not as much as I love basketball and sports. So I kind of it kept me away from home a lot, and when I got ready to, you could go. We're good. When I got ready to, I got married. I had a kid or two. I got ready to pivot. I needed something that I could stay closer to home. All right, so I jumped into. I bought a 99 sports franchise. All right, and from there I kind of. It's history. Like, my son got a little older, I got to training him, and that's where the training part came from. And we walked through the AAU process together as father and son, and I got roped into coaching there, and I coached high school and I coached college, and it's just always kind of a step ladder and a building process that happened organically.
So let's with the I-9. So when you decided, all right, I want to get back into sports, what drew the I-9? How did you even go about buying that franchise?
That's an awesome question, man. This is a pretty funny story. I was sitting one day, like I said, on the heels of that music, thinking, like, I'm spending so much time away from home. I've got to find something to do that I can sink my teeth into what I love, but can still stay home. And I looked in the Black Enterprise magazine, and they had a list of the 50 most minority-friendly franchises, and I-9 Sports was in the top 20. That didn't turn out to be true. But I don't know if they paid for the ad, but that's what got me in. They actually had one of their owners from Maryland on the cover of holding a football and a basketball with an honor. And I was just like, sports, business, put it all together, make money, stay what I love, makes sense. And so that was the origin of it. I made the call to home office. I went through the vetting process, had to go down, and they it's a process where you can't just buy a franchise. Our home office has to approve you, and they go through checking your finance and checking your credibility, if you're going to be good for the brand, or if you're going to represent the label properly. And I got through all of that, and our franchise was born in Delaware.
Okay. So then from there, how did you even go about marketing it and bringing it? Because actually, I was a part of I-9 growing up. I did flag football and basketball.
So
So ours was at the Jewish Community Center.
Yeah.
So that's where ours was at. So even with that, how'd you go about, acquiring kids and get started, especially if you're building your own franchise from the ground up? It's not already pre-established.
Right. I was actually the first I&R franchise in the Delaware area, so there was no name recognition. And the marketing for I-9 is more like there's not a national campaign. You're not going to turn on ESPN like you do NFL Flag or anything else. The marketing for I-9 is more grassroots. So it really involves like taking flyers in the schools and putting road signs out. And it's really guerrilla marketing, like from the basic level. And I did all that as an owner. I think my first year, I must have worked 85-hour weeks, 90-hour weeks. I was up till 4 a.m. doing road sign routes and things like that. Anything to make sure we had kids in our building. And it worked. We grew to a top 50 franchise in the network. There's about 200 and something franchises, and we grew to a top 50 franchise in the network in our first 2 years. So it worked, but it for any business, like I said, unless you have the money to buy a McDonald's or a Chick-fil-A, there's so much name recognition in those type places. Like, you just had to have the capital. If you build that, and put it anywhere where they can see the sign, they're going to come in. But for most businesses, your first year or two, you're going to have to put in so many hours. But it has to be, you put in the hours, understanding that you're working for yourself and you're building something that you chose and not something that chose you.
Okay. So then you say you stepped into your AAU programs with your child coming up. So was it like he joined the team and then you just ended up coaching because you was just so involved?
So absolutely. We played in an AAU program. I think his 6th grade year, lady 7th grade year, where it was his first one, 6th grade maybe. I'm not sure. But and I was just, I wanted to be dead, and I wanted to. But he was one of the better players on the team, and we would go to tournaments, and the coaches were like showing up a half hour late or missing practice. So we only had 2 practices a week. They missed one of them. Don't show up. The kids are in there, and I wound up talking to the director of that program and about what they had going on, and it was a mess. So he asked me to help clean it up. So I took over that team. The team played very well. So for the next year and a half, I coached that team as they came up. And that grew into me coaching him for most of his high school career in AAU. And I also coached high school at the time. So so it was, it started out as, I coach high school, I just want to be dead in the AAU, and to, you have a choice to make. Like, you can just be dad and watch your kid crash and burn because there's no leadership on the team, or, but at some point, you have to say for your kid and the other kids that are involved in that team, like, your options, once you're locked into that team, the leadership is not right. Your options are minimal. As a high character person, you feel like you'd have to do what you can, and that sometimes that's how it happens a lot.
All right. So then what was that ladder like? So you started AAU, then you get to high school, and then you end up on college team. So what was that like? Did you realize, oh, I really can do this coaching thing? Like, I'm kind of nice.
So yeah, it's funny. I was pretty talented as a basketball player, but there's levels. Like, not as talented. I've grown up with people that have literally been NBA starting point guards and NBA players, and you think you haven't figured out until you see that level of talent standing next to you. Like, wait a minute, maybe I need to get the management. Like, because I'm not making it to where he's making it to. You know what I mean? So it's the same thing with coaching. Like, you get involved in coaching, and you realize that 2 things. One, you have to have people skills. I've always been good in with leadership and better people person. 2, I think I said this in the presentation. Your honesty and sincerity shines through when you deal with kids. You can coach kids. People think you can't coach them, you can't push them. You can coach kids. They just have to know that you have the best interest in mind. You know what you're talking about, and those things come from being honest and sincere about who you are. But it's a talent, coaching, and the last is I have a very, very, very good understanding of the X and O portion of it. So you put all those three things together, and I tell people, just like anything else, playing is a talent. You can nurture that talent with a lot of hard work, but some players are just better than others. Coaching is the same way. You can study all the X's and O's you want, and but nurture your coaching talent. And if you have talent, you'll get better at it. If you have little talent, you'll still get better at it, but you may not catch up with that more talented coach. So to answer your question, yeah, I did figure out early that I was pretty good at the coaching side, and that I've stuck with since.
I know you got to go pretty soon. So my last question is just, so like, what are you doing now? Like, what is your, because you said, yeah, I did work here, I did work. So what is,
well,
where you going now? Where do you want to go?
I sold the I franchise in 2019 that I built to the lady who owns it now. And a year ago, she asked me to come back because the numbers had dipped and fix it. So I signed back on as program director of I9 Sports Delaware and Philadelphia. I do that, and then also I am the program director for the Philly Pride AAU program. I coach the 17U, which is the kids that are on their way to college, trying to help them with their recruiting process. And like I said, I train, and I'm an NIL representative. So I wear a lot of hats. I stay involved. I stay in the with 2 feet into the sport. As much as I loved to play it, I love just as much to see kids that, were at a certain place 2 years ago when I first met them, get into another place. Like that's a different type of satisfaction than actually, hitting a 3 yourself or going down the lane, getting an and one, but it's equal. It's different, but it's equal. You know what I mean? So now it's just, about understanding that when you have something to offer, I think it's a responsibility to pay it forward. Teach the next generation, pay it forward, because if somebody's got to, the knowledge came to me through a lot of years of being coached and playing and things like that. So, you gotta be able to pay that forward, so they'll be able to pay it forward to the next generation.
All right. And you went hard. You said you was gonna go hard, right? It was a lot of information in a little bit of time.
Yep.
But with that, can I just get you to say this is the Black Caliber Podcast?
Black Caliber Podcast in the building, man. Hey, man, you guys do a great job, man. And thank you very much for having me.
All right, thank you for coming over.
Sir, yes, sir.